Welcome back. This is episode 4, and the story is taking a dramatic turn. With friendships being tested, rivalries growing sharper, and shocking truths coming to light, every moment feels like a game changer. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive back into the drama. Chaos erupts as representatives from the education office storm into the scene. They announce they've received a tip about the school inflating students' credentials and demand answers. Spotting the parents, the lead officer asks why they're gathered there. Caught off guard, Principal Choi stammers for an explanation, her eyes darting around until they land on a poster. She hastily improvises that the parents are there to support the cheerleading club's performance in an upcoming athletic competition. Backing her up, Sua's mom plays along with the story, but things take a turn when the officer mentions that the event sounds perfect for television. He introduces a reporter who's covering schools that fabricate student records and declares Sevet High the perfect model for how extracurriculars should be done, with the education minister himself promising to attend. Principal Choi grovels to appease the officer, only to have her panic levels skyrocket. Instructor Nam strides past, loud and confident, as the same moms who wanted her gone now fawn over her. Principal Choi has no choice but to play along and laugh awkwardly, pretending the entire situation is a misunderstanding. Nam seizes the moment and sets a bold condition. She wants the authority to assign penalty points to the students. When Principal Choi refuses, Nam casually threatens to give the reporter an exclusive about the school's shady practices. Furious but cornered, Choi reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, the Baek-ho moms regroup at a spa, their polished nails doing little to soothe their anxieties. Sua's mom warns them that any wrong move could destroy their kids' carefully crafted achievements. They grudgingly decide to stay the course for now. Back at school, Principal Choi seethes as she watches the reporter interviewing students. She orders teacher IM to figure out who leaked the information. She also decides the cheerleading club needs tighter supervision and sets her sights on teacher Yang. Elsewhere, instructor Nam lazes in the Baek-ho classroom, engrossed in her manhwa, while the Baek-ho kids ignore her and focus on studying. The Real King members watch her in disbelief until Yandu finally speaks up, asking if they're going to practice. Nam, unfazed, says her day is almost over and gives them homework to learn about each other before sauntering off. Meanwhile, Principal Choi pressures teacher Yang into overseeing the cheerleading club, reminding him that his contract renewal depends on it. Yang quickly agrees, but she makes it clear that his only job is to protect Baek-ho from the Real King's influence. Yandu and Dong-jae later discuss his removal from the basketball team. She feels guilty, knowing it happened because of her, but Dong-jae reassures her with his characteristic kindness. A few steps behind, Ha-jun asks Yol about his interest in Yandu. Yol grins, admitting that the more their paths cross, the more he finds himself intrigued. Ha-jun points at Yandu and Dong-jae, asking if their closeness doesn't bother him. Inside the school, Hyo-shik and Sung-woo playfully duel with mops until one smashes through a window. Outside, Yandu and her friends hear the crash as the glass rains down. Seeing the danger, Dong-jae freezes, but Yol leaps forward to shield Yandu, getting cut in the process. At the hospital, Yol's injuries turn out to be minor, though Yandu and teacher Young hover worriedly. Yol excuses himself to the restroom, but Yandu quietly follows behind him. In his dorm room, Dong-jae sits huddled in a corner, his face drenched in sweat. The scene of the accident replays in his mind, tormenting him. He tries calling Yandu, but she doesn't answer, adding to his distress. Flashback, a young Dong-jae sits on a climbing frame as a little girl eagerly climbs up to join him. She grabs his arm, pleading for him to play. Frustrated by her persistence, he pushes her away. To his horror, she falls to the ground. Later, he watches her lying unconscious in a hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. At the hospital, Yandu catches up to Yol in the lobby. Surprised, he asks if she's skipping school too. She explains that she came to thank him. With a wide grin, he steps closer, teasing that if she's so thankful, she should repay him. Yandu quips back, "I'm grateful, but not that much." Yol enjoying an elaborate meal while Yandu watches helplessly, counting out cash to pay for his indulgent choices. He seems completely unapologetic, turning her every comment into a compliment about himself. Their banter is interrupted when teacher Yang calls Yandu. Panicked, she tries to answer, but Yol stops her, rejecting the call with a grin. "Step 1 of skipping school," he says as they leave the hospital together. They wander through an indoor market, stopping at a snack stall. Yol's eyes widen at the food, but Yandu reminds him she's already paid enough. Suddenly, looking uncomfortable, Yol drags her away, leaving her pouting. The pair stumble upon a lively dance-off hosted by an ajumma, where a stereo is offered as the prize. Yandu, determined to win it for real king, jumps on stage despite Yol's protests. As she dances solo, Yol initially cringes but gradually relaxes, enjoying her spirited performance. The MC interrupts, declaring that the performance needs something extra, a partner. He offers the stereo immediately if they do a couple dance. Yol tries to escape, but Yandu is unstoppable, pulling him onto the stage. Reluctantly, he starts dancing stiffly, but soon, with the audience cheering, he tosses aside his blazer and fully commits to the routine, matching Yandu's energy. On their way back, Yandu beams with excitement, holding a giant rice cooker instead of the stereo. "Third prize," she mutters, glaring at Yol, who pretends not to know her. On the bus, she dumps the cooker onto his lap, earning side-eyes from other passengers. As the bus ride continues, they bicker over who should hold the prize. Eventually, they both fall asleep, Yandu's head resting on Yol's shoulder and his cheek brushing against her hair. Yol wakes first, smiling softly at her sleeping face. Quietly, he takes the rice cooker, letting her rest more comfortably. Back at school, Teacher Yang is waiting for them at the gate, chastising them for skipping without informing him. He jokingly adds that he might have skipped with them if he'd known. Yol holds the rice cooker, and Yang stares, baffled by its presence. Dong-jae rushes to meet Yandu, relief washing over him. She reassures him she's fine, proudly showing off her prize. Noticing a small plaster on her hand, he reaches out but freezes, unable to touch her. Later, in her dorm room, Yandu tends to her grazed hand. Hugging the rice cooker, she laughs softly, replaying the day's events in her mind, much to the annoyance of her roommates. In his room, Yol is equally giddy, chuckling to himself. Ha-jun teases him, noting it's the first time he's seen Yol so happy. The next day, Instructor Nam makes a dramatic entrance into the gym, moonwalking to impress the students. Dong-jae surprises everyone by joining the club, explaining that he wants to protect Yandu. Though skeptical, she eventually accepts his decision. Nam is disappointed the group hasn't completed their get-to-know-each-other assignment. She assigns them jumping jacks as punishment, casually relaxing in the sun. She reassures a concerned Teacher Yang that the kids volunteered for the exercise to avoid penalty points. Yang can't help but be a little impressed. Later, the group finally tackles their assignment. Dami boldly asks Yol if he's dating anyone. Smiling slyly, he glances at Yandu and says there's someone he'd like to kiss. Yandu flushes red, and Dong-jae innocently suggests she visit the nurse for her fever, adding to her embarrassment. Nam demonstrates a new cheer move and pairs the students for practice. Predictably, Yol and Yandu end up as partners, while Sua gets paired with Dong-jae. Amid the group's loud protests, Nam offers them the usual choice, penalty points or teamwork. They grudgingly comply, climbing onto each other's shoulders, but Dong-jae struggles to move. That night, Dong-jae sits alone in his room, staring at a doll. He tries to reach out and touch it, but despite his determination, he just can't do it. His hands tremble as sweat beads on his brow. The next day, Principal Choi stumbles upon CCTV footage showing a brawl between Baek-ho and Real King in the hallway. Alarmed, she panics at the thought of reporters finding it and orders Teacher Im to delete every trace of incriminating evidence. Teacher Im completes the task and steps away for a coffee break, leaving his computer screen open. The frozen footage shows the exact moment Soo-ah discovers the bloody towel tied to Ha-jun's earlier injury. Meanwhile, Yol and Yandu are sent to the staff room to write a report. While Yandu excuses herself to the restroom, Yol begins wandering and stops at Teacher Im's computer. Noticing Soo-ah on the screen, curiosity gets the better of him. He plays the footage and watches her pick up the towel and head inside. The realization hits him like a truck. Overcome with rage, Yol storms straight to Soo-ah. Cornering her, he demands an explanation. Soo-ah, as cold and calculating as ever, sneers that Ha-jun's self-harm isn't exactly a secret. Seething, Yol warns her to stay quiet if she values her life. But Soo-ah isn't one to back down. She throws his threat back in his face, taunting that if he crosses her, she'll tell Ha-jun everything, just to see how it breaks him. As soon as Yol leaves, Ha-jun appears, having overheard most of their exchange. His jaw tightens, and his voice is ice-cold as he demands she explain what he's not supposed to know. When she finally relents, her tone is venomous. "You'll regret it," she says. Night falls, and Ha-jun sits alone on the rooftop, grappling with his emotions. In the dorms, Yol grows frantic when Ha-jun doesn't show up for roll call. He quickly texts Teacher Yang, asking him to cover for Ha-jun, and rushes out to search for his friend. Yol's hope flickers when he sees the Baekho clubroom light on, but it's Yandu who exits. Desperation in his voice, he asks if she's seen Ha-jun. When she shakes her head, his worry deepens, and he takes off again, fear clawing at him. Reaching the rooftop, Yol finds the door locked. Inside, Ha-jun stands near the edge, gazing down below, his face etched with raw emotion. He takes a running start, but stops short of going over. He collapses, tears spilling, the weight of his pain almost unbearable. Elsewhere, Yandu finds Yol sitting dejectedly on a staircase. She sits beside him, her voice gentle as she assures him that Ha-jun will return. "That lie you told me, it was the truth," she says softly. Placing a comforting hand on his shoulder, she adds, "Don't stay out too late." The next morning, Ha-jun strides through the crowded corridors, his expression dangerous. Yol overhears some Baekho members gossiping about him and realizes Ha-jun is heading to the principal's office. Alarmed, he takes off running. Bursting into Principal Choi's office, Ha-jun unleashes his fury, sending papers and furniture flying. The teachers rush to restrain him, but it's Yol who manages to hold him back, grabbing him tightly and shouting for him to stop. Ha-jun breaks free, shooting a hard look at Yol before storming out. Principal Choi looks on coldly, unaffected, as if she were made of stone. Yol chases Ha-jun through the school grounds as a sudden downpour begins. When he catches up, Ha-jun turns on him, screaming, "Why did you do that? Why, when I already want to die?" Grabbing Ha-jun by the lapels, Yol shouts back, "You want to die? Then die, jerk." But when Ha-jun quietly replies that he truly will, it's not a threat, it's a heartbreaking certainty. Later, Ha-jun storms into the Baekho clubroom, announcing that he's quitting. But he's spoiling for a fight, and when Sungwoo mocks him, Ha-jun throws a wild punch. Chaos erupts as the room devolves into a full-blown brawl. Outside, Instructor Nam calmly observes the chaos from the hallway. She stops Teacher Yang from intervening, saying the kids need to work out their frustrations. Yang is stunned by her apparent indifference, but she reassures him, "This isn't negligence, it's strategy." After all, she's recording everything. Their punishment comes swiftly, rolling in the mud under the pouring rain. From her office window, Principal Choi nearly spits out her tea at the sight, but quickly convinces herself she didn't see anything. Instructor Nam's unorthodox methods are driving her to the brink. As the rain ceases, the soaked students head inside, except for Yol and Ha-jun. Sitting on the muddy ground, Yol finally confesses, "I was afraid of losing you again." He admits that their current method of surviving, staying quiet and compliant, might be flawed, but it's the only way to endure the adult's cruelty. His words echo Jun-soo's warning to Real King. Voice trembling, Ha-jun responds, "That's why I'm struggling to hold on. Because of you." Later, the students huddle together around a table, still in their muddy clothes, sharing instant ramyun. Despite their bedraggled appearance, Yandu's laughter becomes contagious, and soon the group dissolves into genuine camaraderie. Teacher Yang, passing by, is surprised to see them laughing together. In the showers, Yol's mischievous side returns as he sprays Ha-jun with water before he even undresses. A playful water fight breaks out, and for the first time in what feels like ages, the boys smile, their bond restored. The next morning, Yol and Ha-jun make a formal visit to Principal Choi's office. Displaying uncharacteristic humility, Yol kneels to apologize for the previous day's incident. With visible reluctance, Ha-jun follows suit, lowering his head. Both boys plead for forgiveness, but Choi's self-satisfied smirk is maddening. Feigning concern, she remarks that informing Ha-jun's father about this right away might not be prudent. Her words drip with thinly veiled malice as she adds, "I'll think carefully about the right time to bring it up. Whether it's a threat or an empty promise is unclear, but it leaves the boys silently fuming." At Yandu's mom's cafe, a charming yet awkward scene unfolds. Yol's father can't seem to stop helping with dirty dishes, much to Yandu's mom's bemusement. Finally, she sits him down, urging him to share whatever's on his mind. Hesitating briefly, he pulls out a small box and opens it to reveal a sparkling ring. "Take this," he says earnestly, "and take me too." His unexpected proposal catches her off guard. Though touched, she gently declines, thanking him but explaining she can't accept. The moment ends in an odd air of uncertainty. Later, Instructor Nam calls a meeting with the students and presents them with a map to her house. Her invitation isn't optional. Attendance comes with either the reward of her hospitality or penalty points for refusal. With collective groans, the kids agree to go. When they arrive, they're greeted by an impressive spread of food. Even Sua, typically aloof, can't help but relax. As they dig in, Da-mi heads to the fridge to grab drinks. Everyone calls out for juice, and she obliges, bringing back an unmarked bottle. The first sip reveals a twist. It's clearly not juice, and Da-mi unknowingly pours everyone a glass of Instructor Nam's homemade concoction. Yol and Ha-jun exchange knowing grins as the group silently agrees to enjoy the treat. Hyo-shik raids the fridge for more, and soon, the only sober one is Dong-jae, watching the chaos unfold with amusement. Later, a sad and inebriated Sua intercepts Ha-jun on the stairs. Her voice slurs as she accuses everyone of being out to get her. Tears spill as she repeatedly mutters, "I'll kill them all." June crouches beside her and gently pokes her forehead, a light gesture that momentarily disrupts her rant. Through sobs, she admits, "It's like my head is eating up my heart. It really feels like I'm dying." There's a raw vulnerability in her words, and for once, her pain feels genuine. Ha-jun doesn't respond verbally but tosses her a handkerchief. With quiet understanding in his eyes, he leaves her to cry in solitude. On the veranda, Yol finds Yandu sitting peacefully, her face glowing with contentment. "I'm glad your friend came back," she says softly, eyes closed and smiling. "You were so worried about him." Her drink-induced dizziness makes her lay her head on the table, giggling as she invites Yol to do the same. Their faces are now inches apart, eyes locked. Yandu lights up in recognition of the moment. "One! I get up, right?" she asks, referencing a previous playful encounter. Both sit up laughing, but Yol has a different idea. Smiling, he leans closer and says, "One. I do it." His hand gently cradles her neck as he closes the distance and kisses her.